Hi there, it's John from itsmorethanjustgaming.com here, and welcome to another one of my videos. This time we're looking at Rail Raiders Infinite, which is a new game released by Ninja Division. The Kickstarter fulfillment is being sent out just now. My friend got a copy of this from Gen Con, so sadly he didn't back the Kickstarter, so he didn't get the exclusives, for which he's annoyed at. Basically, Rail Raiders is a science fiction game with miniatures that are in the same style as Super Dungeon Explorer, but it's science fiction, Wild West, great train robbery style game. So basically you choose your bandit or your outlaw and you have to rob an intergalactic train which is carrying valuable gems and money and raw materials and stuff that the Outer Rim planets are mining and are being pillaged by the central government, and naturally enterprising bandits and outlaws are trying to make an honest or dishonest living, as the case is, by robbing the train on its way back to the central hub. Naturally there are lawbots on board that will try and stop you, and of course there's no honor among thieves, so other bandits will try and stop you as well. So let's have a look at the game itself. So the first thing you need to understand is that for any challenge in this game you need to roll the dice, and there are about 20 dice included, and each player gets 5 and you roll them. They're 6-sided, but they don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. So basically you make poker hands there, ranked 1 to 8, so that's actually 3 of a kind, and 3 of a kind is a rank 4 hand. So that's not bad actually. So let's see what we get next. Okay, so that's actually only 2 of a kind, which is rank 2 hand, which is a little bit poor, but there are, like I say, there's 8 hands in total that you can get ranked 1 to 8. So let's see what we get if we roll the dice another time. Come on, something good please, something good. And we got a full house there, which is a rank 6 hand, so brilliant. Aside from 4 of a kind and 5 of a kind, that's the best hand in the game. Okay, so that's how you do the dice rolling in this game. Highest hand wins, basically. So, let's look at the rest of the game. Okay, so you can see here that I've set up a very small train and 2 bandits in front of it with all the loot and stuff like that sitting off to the bandits. Well, your left, I guess, when you're looking at it. Normally, the train would be longer, so let's make it a bit longer there. Okay, for a 2-player game, there would actually be 4 cars in between the caboose and the engine itself, the locomotive, I should say. But we're only going to use 3 because we can't even see the locomotive at this point. The caboose and the locomotive have special abilities if you start on them. When you start the game, you don't start on the train. You can either, as a free action before the game starts, move straight to the caboose, which is the card at the back, or you can try and roll to get onto a different car in the train. So basically, work your way towards the engine, count how many cars it is, and add 2, and that's the strength of hand. You need to sort of like jump onto the train there. When you move into a new car, as you've just been seeing, I've just set up the car. You basically flip the car over, and it reveals loot icons and lawbot cards. You basically draw the number of lawbot cards that it tells you to, and they tell you how many lawbots are on the train or if the lawbots do anything different. Every player is trying to get as much loot as they can before the game runs out. Now, in Rail Raiders, there are 3 actions you can do, and you can do each action up to 2 times, but you can never do them 3 times. So the first one is move, which means your bandit can actually move to an adjacent car. You can search. If you are in a train car which has loot icons and there are no lawbots about, you can basically flip over one of the loot tokens, although if there is another bandit in the car, a rail raider in the car, they can actually stop you, they can interfere with you, and basically you get a gun battle happening, and then you can actually initiate what's called a showdown, which is when you actually initiate a fight. So let's move. That's us moving into the car there just now, and that's grand. So if we were wanting to do a showdown, it would be a roll-off between the Rail Raider and, in this case, we have a sheriff in the car. So the Rail Raider would roll their 5 dice, and then one of the other players would roll on behalf of the sheriff. They would roll their 5 dice, and because it's a sheriff, they get a re-roll of 1 die. Deputies don't get a re-roll, sheriffs do, and marshals get an extra dice, but it's 1 roll in total. So let's imagine that our raider hasn't been interfered with by the other raider and wins the battle. They actually shoot the sheriff and loots one of the tokens, well, or 2 of the tokens if they've got time to do it. So that tells us that they can get 3 loot cards, so that's good. So the first loot card gives us $1 double dollar, second loot card gives us another $double dollar, and the third loot card gives us a third $double dollar. Now sometimes you'll get equipment and weapons which actually makes the game a little bit easier, and that's pretty cool. In this case, it's just been cash. So that's the basic actions that a Rail Raider can take on their turn. So let's look at the start of the game. First of all, you need to choose player 1, the dealer, and that is done by rolling your 5 dice, and the person with the highest hand wins. They get the dealer token, which is the sort of like the poker chip with the skull and the crossed guns and the lightning bolts on it. As the game progresses, player 1 who is player 1 is quite important, because if, say for instance, you've actually just cleared a car of lawbots and you want to loot it but you don't have any actions left, you might want to actually be in that car on your own and be player 1 next turn so that you can get the loot. Whereas if you're not player 1, someone else might come along and try and steal the loot. No honor amongst thieves. Or even if they can't steal the loot, they might run into the car to prevent you from getting it, because no honor amongst thieves. So that's how you get player 1. So let's do a first turn with the kid. At the start of every turn, you draw a high noon card. This one says True Grit. There's some text on it. So let's actually have a look at the text. Until the end of your turn, the losers of fights don't suffer any consequences unless they lose by 2 or more. Normally, when you lose a fight, the winner can basically put you onto another car or to an adjacent car. So that's actually quite useful, so you're not running risk. Okay, first action, let's jump onto the caboose. We could have moved immediately to a train car, but which saves actions, but it's risky. So second action, let's move into the first car, which would be the passenger car. So that's got 2 loot icons on it, so let's put 2 loot on the car. And it's got 2 long arm of the law cards. So the first one says deputized. That's a deputy and a sheriff appear on the car. And let's see what the second one is. Yeah, they won't actually attack until I try to rob the place. Protect the locomotive. Okay, so that actually sends one of the weakest lawbots in each carriage 1 step closer to the locomotive. So that's actually worked out rather well for me, because that just leaves the sheriff there. So I would say, you know what, I can't search the train whilst there's a lawbot there, so I'm going to do a showdown with the lawbot, which would be a roll-off between myself and the sheriff. So my character would roll 5. And that's 9, 10, Jack, Queen, Ace, so quite rubbish. So what do I need? Get rid of the 9, re-roll it, because the kid has that ability, and I get a 10, which is a straight. And as you can imagine, that's a rank 5 hand. So let's see what the sheriff gets. Yep, see, rank 5 hand is straight, 10 through to Ace. So the sheriff gets to roll. Sorry, if there had been another person here helping me make the video, they could have done the roll simultaneously, but never mind. A sheriff gets a re-roll. Currently, they've got a pair. There's nothing they can do, as far as I'm aware, that will actually give them a hand better than a straight. That lawbot gets shot to bits and destroyed. And if we look at the back of the reference card, it tells us how many double dollars destroying a sheriff is worth. A sheriff is worth 2 double dollars. So the kid has got his first loot. So that's good news. And we'll put that back over there in the supply. Now, if the kid had actually managed to jump onto the train, with one action, we would only actually have probably turned over the top token. I think you can only loot one token per action, so that was me making a mistake there. But either way, that would be $1 for each loot card. So a good first turn for the kid. Now we need to talk about one of the things that makes this game really super cool, and that is the fact that you are not playing as allies. This is a completely competitive game, and there is no honor amongst thieves. So at the moment we have the kid and Pearlheart on the passenger carriage, and there's two lawbots there. Let's say it's the kid's turn or Pearl's turn, and they decide to do a showdown with the lawbots. That's great. The lawbots get to roll dice once, and so does, let's say it's Pearl, because the kid's just had a turn. She decides to do a showdown with the lawbots. They get 5 dice in a reroll because there's a sheriff present. She gets 5 dice plus whatever bonuses she has for her gear. And here's the cool part. The kid, because they are sort of like a bandit, can jump into the fight at any time and participate. Either on Pearl's side, on the side of the Rail Raider, or on the side of the lawbots. Basically, it becomes a 3-way gun battle, and the person who rolls the best out of the 3 decides who the losers are, what happens to the losers. If the other players in the carriage decide to help the lawbots and they win, then the player gets moved to a carriage of their choice adjacent to the carriage that they've done the gun battle. If the player who initiated the showdown wins, all the losers would get moved according to where they wanted to put them, and what the lowest ranked lawbot would go. A firefight like this also happens when a player tries to search a carriage when there are no lawbots present, but there is another Rail Raider present. A gun battle ensues between those two, and the winner gets to push the person, the loser, out of the carriage into an adjacent carriage. So yeah, that's really, really cool and really fun and backstabby. Love it. So that has been a very, very brief introduction to the game Rail Raiders Infinite. Once we got our head around the rules, I really enjoyed this game. It is very fast-paced. I reckon even with 4 players it'll run under an hour because you have a finite amount of turns based on the High Noon deck, and quite a few of the Long Arm of the Law cards force you, and other High Noon cards actually force you to discard High Noon cards, speeding things up drastically. It was hard to I found it personally quite hard to get traction at the start of the game because the lawbots have the advantages at the start, so that could encourage players to ally with one another to begin with. But as you started to get gear or your special abilities started coming into play, it became easier and easier to actually shoot lawbots and rob train carriages. Like I say, it was a fast-paced game. It was quite fun, and it was relatively simple to learn. Although perhaps learning it whilst you're setting up the game wasn't the best idea in the world, which is more or less what we did, and made me a little bit cranky in the first few turns. But yeah, if you get a chance to play this, thoroughly recommended. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed and found this video useful and found this video via YouTube, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. There will be a link in the description below to the accompanying blog article on my website, itsmorethanjustgaming.com. If you found this video via the website, then thank you for coming and watching this brief explanation video. I hope I'll see you here on YouTube again. Bye for now.